I'd like to talk a little bit about what is required to adopt cooperative advantage, and is anyone really doing it today? And I would have to say that I am not aware of any organizations that are doing all the elements of cooperative advantage today. There's a lot of organizations that are doing bits and pieces of it. And maybe nobody will ever do all of it because it is a comprehensive framework that fits a bunch of pieces together, and every organization is going to take from that what applies and modify it to be their own thing. But it does create a set of principles in a way that is cohesive and integrated and can be very helpful for leaders to take that on and make it their own. And so they'd have kind of their own flavor. But the most important element of cooperative advantage is a leader that's committed to mastery of leadership and human dynamics, and sees the workplace as a place that can be like I said in Aikido, the dojo or the training ground where we all get better and we learn together. Absent this level of commitment, you can take a few techniques from cooperative advantage and try to implement them, but then what you really are is you're the leader that's like the mechanic that's trying to use the wrench and the quick fix and all of that to modify something that people show up as they are and try to make work. I do not know of one effective coach of any sport that would coach that way. Because first and foremost, the coach knows that it's the players, their capability, their commitment, their dedication, their practice that matters. And they know that the players have to practice and be committed to practice on themselves individually and together as a team. Yet, how many organizational leaders look at it that way for their own organization? We might do that when we have a Six Sigma program and we have Six Sigma black belts and those people go out and they practice something. But how often is that embedded in the whole organization, and the whole organization turns in to this developmental learning organization? You may know of some. There are elements of that, but it requires a certain type of leadership and dedication that is quite rare today. So the first step for cooperative advantage is a leader that really has that commitment. And then it starts with that leader and maybe the leadership team walking that talk. So doing their own development. So the self-leadership side of it is probably where we need to start with the core leaders, the core senior leaders. Then they can teach by example. And anything is possible. But if they just talk that talk and they don't model it, it's not going to get out of the starting block. For me, cooperative advantage is best applied once you have a commitment to it, to go and assess your situation, do a diagnostic and say, where would deeper cooperation internally and externally make the biggest difference for our organization? What are the places where our ability to relate, to co-create, to execute, to move from firefighting to prevention, where would this make the biggest difference? And based on that, you can start to say, okay, if we were going to start someplace, these places of big difference might be places to begin. So we need to kind of look at the whole territory, see how the pieces are interrelated, and see where cooperative advantage could provide the most value. And then come up with a plan for, how we want to roll it out and in what way. We should take the principles of cooperative advantage and integrate them into the language and the culture of the organization. See, what things do we want to keep that we do great and that we want to leverage with cooperative advantage, and what things do we need to fundamentally change or get rid of or let go of. So being real cognizant of the culture we have, its strengths and its gaps, particularly relative to really effective human dynamics and cooperation. And from that, we develop this execution plan. And any plan like this is a plan made to be changed. It is our first surveying of the territory. And as we get into it, we're going to learn a lot. So we need to keep incorporating our learnings as we move that out. A cooperative advantage can also be implemented by individual leaders that say, hey, I am going to do my own work to master self-leadership, group leadership, and network leadership, and I'm going to show up in my job and do that and have a ripple effect around me. And to the extent that I have the power or can enroll others, I will try to implement things in the environment that help support this. But those are going to maybe happen organically and just through influence. So any leader can do that. So I can imagine that some organizations, the top leaders will say, this is what we want, and they'll have a systematic approach to kind of get that embedded. And in other places, it will be individual leaders that say, when I show up in a certain way, the people around me reflect that, learn from that, and the dynamic of me showing up differently will have this ripple effect. And so I see that both of these are models, and some mix of this will happen in many cases. So if this material interests you, if you think that this is something that is relevant for yourself as a leader or your larger organization, then I'd encourage you to explore, how might you actually get some traction with it individually or collectively in your organization.